we never thought in a million years something like this would happen to us. When I came out of Bowling Hall, I came down into the cafeteria, and at that point in time, there had been no ambulances, no police officers, no firefighters. It was just too early before they had reported to campus. And when I came into the cafeteria, it wasn't until someone said, "I think you need some medical attention." And I'm like, "Why?" And I just didn't know. I think because of the adrenaline and just in shock in a sense. But it wasn't until the ambulance finally did get here and I was put into the ambulance that I remember seeing the look on the face of the EMT, and he had this a face of fear. And I would later find out years later from that EMT that I was the first burn patient that he had ever had in his ambulance, and he was in shock because he just wasn't accustomed to seeing that. And when I saw the look on his face, I knew at that point in time that something was wrong. I remember being in the back of the ambulance and going through the curves, but then that's it. I don't remember anything else until I came out of the coma 2 weeks later.
For me, when I escaped the hallway, I remember walking down to the first floor to the main lounge of Bowling Hall. I remember sitting down there in the lobby waiting, because with bowling they had the health center there, like the medical health center, and someone came out, I remember, and with an oxygen tank, and they put the mask on me until I waited for help. And I remember the ambulance coming, they brought in the stretcher, they put me on the stretcher and got me in the ambulance. And then I remember halfway through the ride to St. Barnabas, I remember passing out. And I know even though they said we were still responsive when we got to the hospital, but I don't remember anything after that.
They took us out of the medically induced coma. There was a lot of confusion, especially because of the fact that you're heavily medicated and you're just in an unfamiliar environment, and you just and because we were actually incubated, we couldn't even talk. So it was one of those situations like, all right, I know I'm in a hospital room, but and I knew there was a fire, but what really happened? And it wasn't until the nurses, they were able to go get like a notepad, and you would have to kind of point out the letters to spell things out, and you start asking questions then, because they're not going to tell you how badly hurt you are, because they don't want to send you into in shock in a sense, or set you back. It's still a realizing when you can't do certain things, like why can't I talk, why can't I use my hands, why can't I do these things. You're starting to question like something definitely was wrong here.
Once you're able to talk and start asking questions, you find out the date. It was, I was in shock and I had so many questions. And I remember my first question, because I'm a big sports fan. I was like, wait a minute, who won the Super Bowl? That was actually my first question, waking up in the coma, because so much time has passed by, and then after that you have so many questions. At that point, I still didn't realize how severely hurt I was. And it took some time. After, especially with being heavily medicated. I was still very confused. And then when you start going through the physical therapy process, trying to learn how to walk again, then you start realizing, okay, this is really, really bad. Coming back on campus,
even when we were coming back to school, it was never any. It wasn't a difficult place to come back to. We see as Seton Hall as family. This is this is our family. So it's important for us to make sure that we continue to come back here, and that we come back on an annual basis.
When we come back here, is to keep those memories alive, especially those three young men that we lost in this fire.
Our primary focus is, of course, fire safety. This was something that I think that most college campuses prior to Seton Hall didn't put enough effort into doing when it came to living on campus. So we figured, why not take the situation that we went through, talk to students and say, hey, look, we were just like you. We were living inside of the residence halls and the dorms, thinking that we were safe to the most part. And we never thought in a million years something like this would happen to us. So just think about it and say, when you hear that fire alarm go off, make sure you go outside or know where your nearest exit is.